100 life rules that will protect your future after 40. Something shifts after 40. You stop rushing toward things and start noticing what you are running from. The noise of youth begins to fade, and in that quiet, something sacred emerges: clarity. Not the kind that comes from books or titles, but the kind carved by time, loss, failure, and moments where you were forced to choose between who you were and who you are becoming. This is the chapter where you stop proving and start protecting your peace, your time, your energy, your future. Rule 1: protect your mornings like your life depends on it, because it does. I used to let my phone, my email, other people's urgencies shape the first moments of my day. But Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, each dawn you have a duty to rise and do the work of a human being. The morning is when your mind is cleanest, your intentions purest. If you begin reactive, you will spend the whole day recovering. Begin with stillness, with presence, with sovereignty. Rule 2: friendships that drain your spirit are not friendships, they are obligations in disguise. After 40, you start to feel it more clearly: the forced conversations, the one-sided support, the subtle jabs wrapped in jokes. Epictetus said, avoid fraternizing with people who do not lift your soul. This is not about being cold. It is about being clear. Time is not a courtesy you owe, it is a currency you must spend wisely. Rule 3: your body is no longer just a vehicle. It is your contract with life. I used to treat mine like it was disposable. Late nights, skipped meals, stress is a status symbol. But now I know every ache is a message, every extra breath a gift. Seneca warned, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Take care of your body, not to look good, but because it is your last line of defense against everything you cannot control. Rule 4: peace is a decision, not a destination. I thought I would feel peace when things slowed down, when others changed, when life finally got easier. But Marcus wrote, nowhere can a man find a more peaceful retreat than into his own soul. Peace is not given. It is chosen. Over and over again. Especially in moments when everything in you wants to react. Rule 5: do not argue with people who are addicted to misunderstanding. I used to exhaust myself explaining, clarifying, making sure no one got the wrong impression. But what I learned is that some people do not want to understand, they want to stay outraged. Epictetus would remind his students, do not waste what is in your control by trying to fix what is not. Your energy is too expensive to spend on cheap battles. Rule 6: protect your schedule like it is sacred. Because it is. I used to say yes out of politeness, out of fear of missing out. But every yes was a no to myself. Seneca wrote, people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to wasting time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Your time is not just what you spend, it is what shapes your future. Guard it. Rule 7: you do not need more opinions, you need more silence. I used to crowdsource every decision. Ask 5 people. Compare 10 paths. But the answers were never out there. Marcus Aurelius journaled in private, not to broadcast his thoughts, but to hear them more clearly. In a world addicted to noise, silence is a form of self-respect. It is where you meet yourself without distortion. Rule 8: protect your boundaries even when your voice shakes. Especially then. I used to think boundaries would push people away. And sometimes they did. But the ones who stayed, they learned to meet me in respect, not convenience. Epictetus said, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. People will not respect boundaries you never enforce. And the first person who needs to honor them is you. Rule 9: discipline is not punishment, it is protection. I used to resent structure. I wanted freedom, spontaneity, flow. But what I realized is that without discipline, freedom becomes chaos. Seneca knew that true power came from inner order. Discipline protects your peace, your health, your purpose. It is not the enemy of joy, it is its foundation. And Rule 10: never make long-term decisions from short-term emotion. I have burned bridges, ended dreams, and spoken words I could never take back, all because I acted from the heat of the moment. Marcus taught the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. That includes your impulsive self. Pause. Breathe. Let time pass through you before you act. It will save you from regrets that last longer than the anger ever did. If even one of these rules resonated with something you have been quietly carrying, share this message. Because protecting your future after 40 is not about being selfish. It is about being sacred with your life. There comes a time when survival is no longer enough. You do not just want to get through the day, you want to feel aligned, protected, and fully present. After 40, life stops screaming and starts whispering. The question is, are you quiet enough inside to hear what it is trying to say? These next 10 rules are not about fixing your life. They're about fortifying it. Rule 11: learn to distinguish between solitude and isolation. I used to fear being alone. I thought silence was loneliness. But Marcus Aurelius often retreated not out of escape, but out of strength. Solitude is where you recalibrate, where you remember who you are beneath the noise of everyone else's demands. Isolation drains you. Solitude restores you. Know the difference and choose wisely. Rule 12: never let urgency rob you of discernment. I used to rush into things, deals, relationships, decisions because I felt the pressure to move. But Epictetus taught that delay is not failure. It is wisdom. If something is truly right for you, it will still be right when you have taken a breath. Urgency is oft unfeared dressed as opportunity. Protect your future by pausing. Rule 13: protect your finances from your emotions. I have spent out of guilt, out of boredom, out of the need to feel something. But Seneca wrote, "Wealth is the slave of a wise man, the master of a fool." Money is not just about numbers, it is about boundaries. Emotional spending is self-neglect disguised as indulgence. Save. Invest. Say no. Your future self will thank you. Rule 14: do not seek closure, seek clarity. Closure implies a clean ending, a mutual agreement. But most endings in life are messy, quiet, or one-sided. Marcus Aurelius never waited for people to explain themselves. He focused on what was within his control, how he processed, how he moved forward. Clarity does not require conversation. It requires courage. Rule 15: be as loyal to your growth as you are to other people's comfort. I used to shrink myself so others would not feel insecure. I used to hide my hunger, my ambition, my evolving truth. But Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Protect your future by honoring your own expansion, even if it offends those committed to your past. Rule 16: protect your energy like your health depends on it, because it does. I used to underestimate the cost of draining conversations, toxic environments, or even constant small talk. But your nervous system is always listening. Seneca taught that what you allow repeatedly, you eventually become. Audit your surroundings. Your peace is not a luxury, it is a form of survival. Rule 17: cut ties with guilt disguised as obligation. I stayed too long. In roles, in relationships, in routines that no longer align just because I felt guilty to leave. But Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that life is fleeting, and loyalty to the wrong things is self-betrayal. You do not owe anyone your slow death in the name of being good. Rule 18, learn how to leave with grace, not resentment. I used to slam doors, burn bridges, make exits loud so I could feel right. But Epictetus would say, let silence be your reply to unreason. Walk away without needing to be understood, without the last word. Protect your dignity by not becoming what hurts you. Rule 19, do not confuse consistency with loyalty. I stayed consistent with habits that were hurting me just because they were familiar. I called it discipline, but really it was fear of change. Seneca said the greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow. Your routine is not sacred if it is slowly draining your soul. Protect your future by adjusting now. And Rule 20, speak less, observe more. I used to explain myself constantly, fill silence with noise. But Marcus Aurelius observed people deeply. He listened not just to their words, but to their values. Talking is easy. Listening requires strength. Your future will thank you for every moment you paid attention instead of performing. If these rules echoed truths you have quietly carried for years, you are not alone. This is the season of intentional living. Protect your time, your growth, and your energy like they are gold, because after 40, they are. There is a quiet kind of power that comes with age. It is not loud. It does not beg to be seen. But it is steady. It knows what it is worth. And more importantly, it knows what is no longer worth it. After 40, life becomes less about chasing and more about choosing. Choosing where you invest your time, your trust, your attention. These next 10 rules are for those who are ready to stop surviving and start protecting what truly matters. Rule 20-1, never argue with a fool. The audience may not know the difference. I used to feel the need to correct every lie, every insult, every misjudgment. But Marcus Aurelius wrote, you should not give circumstances the power to rouse anger, for they do not care at all. When you engage with ignorance, you invite it into your space. Walk away. Let silence be your filter. Rule 20- to protect your sleep like a sacred ritual. I used to sacrifice sleep in the name of productivity, thinking success required late nights and early mornings. But Epictetus would ask, how long will you wait before you demand the best of yourself? And the best of yourself cannot emerge from burnout. Rest is not a reward, it is your reset. Rule 20-3, do not carry people who refuse to walk. I used to think compassion meant carrying others through every storm. But Seneca said, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Some people crave rescue more than responsibility. Let them learn. Your growth depends on knowing when to support and when to step back. Rule 20- for your phone should not be the first and last thing you see each day. I did not realize how much it shaped my mind until I replaced it with silence. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings with reflection, not stimulation. Do not let someone else's chaos enter your soul before your own thoughts have had time to breathe. Rule 20-5, protect yourself minus talk. It becomes your identity. I used to think the way I spoke to myself did not matter, that the inner critic was harmless. But Epictetus taught that our thoughts are the architects of our character. If you constantly speak defeat, fear, or self-hate, you will live it. Guard your internal language like a fortress. Rule 20-6, stop chasing people who feel like work. I used to believe that effort meant love, that the harder I tried, the more real it was. But relationships built on proving are not relationships, they are auditions. Seneca reminded us to spend our energy where it returns in growth. If you are the only one reaching, maybe it is time to stop. Rule 20-7, do not let your calendar become your cage. I once filled every hour, thinking that a full schedule meant a full life. But Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. The strictness is not about business, it is about discernment. Leave room for breathing, wondering, just being. A full day is not always a meaningful one." Rule 20-8. Learn the difference between quitting and realigning. I used to shame myself for letting goof goals pass people. But Epictetus would say that nothing permanent comes from what is not in harmony. Walking away is not failure if it brings you closer to who you truly are. Let go, not in weakness, but in wisdom. Rule 20-9. If you cannot fix it with action, you probably need to fix it with acceptance. I used to obsess over things I could not control. Replay them. Rewrite them in my mind. But Seneca wrote, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary." Acceptance is not surrender. It is strategy. Sometimes, the strongest move is to stop trying to force the river. And Rule 30, never underestimate the cost of tolerating the wrong environment. I stayed too long in places, in circles, in systems that drained me. I told myself it was temporary, that I could adapt. But Marcus Aurelius knew what you allow is what will continue. Protecting your peace often begins with changing your scenery. If these rules struck a chord deep in your chest, it is not coincidence. It is time. Time to live on purpose. Time to stop giving your best years to the wrong priorities. You have earned your clarity, now protect it. At some point, you stop living to impress and start living to preserve. Not out of fear, but out of deep reverence for what remains. Time, energy, clarity, these are no longer concepts. They are resources. And after 40, you begin to realize your future will not be built by intensity. It will be built by intention. The following 10 rules are not about control. They are about conservation. Of self. Of purpose. Of peace. Rule 30-1. Protect your focus like a rare currency. Because it is. I used to multitask, thinking I was being efficient. But all I was doing was dividing my presence into fragments. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, do every act of your life as though it were the very last act of your life. Distraction is expensive, especially when it steals your potential. Rule 30 is to stop apologizing for evolving. I used to feel guilty for outgrowing spaces, for changing my mind, for choosing differently. But Epictetus said, it is impossible to begin to learn that which one thinks one already knows. Growth will make you unfamiliar even to those closest to you. Let them adjust or let them go. You do not owe anyone your stagnation. Rule 30-3. Protect your joy from people who do not know how to hold it. I used to shrink my light so others would not feel small. I dulled good news, downplayed my wins. But Seneca wrote that joy is not meant to be rationed. It is meant to be honored. If someone cannot celebrate with you, that is not humility, it is a red flag. Rule 30- for your values are more important than your comfort. I stayed in rooms that violated my integrity just to avoid conflict. But Marcus Aurelius never bothered with virtue. What you tolerate defines you. Protecting your future means living by principles, not preferences. Rule 30-5. Do not confuse kindness with compliance. I used to say yes when I meant no, thinking that was the gracious thing to do. But Epictetus reminded us that virtue must align with wisdom. Kindness without clarity breeds resentment. Protect your dignity by being firm, not just fair. Rule 30-6. Stop hoping people will change, believe what they show you. I gave too many second chances. third chances, excuses wrapped in empathy. But Seneca said, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Patterns are louder than promises. Protect your heart by honoring reality, not potential. Rule 30-7 Your peace should never be up for debate. I once negotiated it. Traded it for attention, for love, for fitting in. But peace is not a luxury, it is a compass. Marcus Aurelius found his amid war. So can you, if you choose it above approval. Rule 30-8 Protect your vision from short-term emotions. I abandoned ideas, dreams, even relationships because of one bad day. One sharp word. One wave of doubt. But Epictetus would say, no great thing is created suddenly. Learn to feel without forfeiting your future. Rule 30-9 Stop trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding. I used to believe I just had not explained myself well enough. That if I found the right words, they would finally see me. But Seneca knew that truth, by nature, isolates. Protect your truth by releasing the need to be received. And Rule 40 Protect your boundaries as acts of love, not just defense. I used to see them as walls. Now I see them as doors with locks I choose when to open. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to love without losing himself. Your kindness should have limits. Your time should have terms. Your soul should have standards. If these rules resonate like things you already knew deep down, but needed permission to believe, you are not alone. This season of life is not about adding more. It is about subtracting what no longer serves. What remains is where your future lies. At this stage in life, clarity becomes your currency. You no longer chase everything that glitters. You start asking different questions, not what will this bring me, but what will this cost me? Because you know now, the most expensive things are the ones that drain you slowly or time your joy, your alignment. These next 10 rules are not just strategies. They are shields. Rule 40-1 Protect your name with your actions, not with your defenses. I used to explain myself constantly. Fight rumors. Justify every decision. But Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others. Let your consistency do the talking. Defend your reputation not with noise but with integrity. Rule 40- to stop sacrificing your well-being for the comfort of others. I once believed that saying yes made me noble. That staying silent kept the peace. But Epictetus warned that if you neglect your own soul to please the crowd, you will lose both. Your comfort matters. Your limits matter. Do not martyr yourself for anyone's expectations. Rule 40-3 Protect your heart by managing your expectations. I used to expect people to meet me at the level I met them. That they would love with the same depth, return the same energy. But Seneca wrote, he suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary. Expect reality, not fantasy. Meet people where they are, not where you wish they would be. Rule 40- for never confuse movement with momentum. I stayed busy. Filled every moment. Checked every box. But busy does not mean effective. Marcus Aurelius knew that action without purpose is exhaustion disguised as progress. Protect your future by doing less, but doing it with more meaning. Rule 40-5 Protect your attention as if your life depends on it, because it does. I used to scroll to escape. Consume endlessly. But your attention is not free, it is fuel. Epictetus said, we become what we give our energy to. Choose carefully. Every distraction has a cost. Rule 40-6 Stop negotiating with chaos. I tried to manage dysfunctional people, make peace with places that disturbed me. But peace is not found through better arguments. It is found through better exits. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Craving harmony with the wrong people will bankrupt your spirit. Rule 40-7 Protect your voice, even when it shakes. Especially then. I once stayed quiet to avoid rocking the boat. But Marcus wrote that truth is not for show, it is for the soul. Speak up. Not to convince, but to remain in alignment. Silence may feel safer, but truth sets you free. Rule 40-8 Do not confuse hope with attachment. I held on too long calling it hope. But Epictetus taught that we must prepare ourselves for the world as it is not as we want it to be. Hope without acceptance becomes suffering. Let go with grace. Release with wisdom. Rule 40-9 Protect your dreams from people who only see limits. I used to share my ideas with the wrong ears, people who saw risk instead of potential, fear instead of vision. Seneca advised to associate with those who strengthen your character. Share your dreams with builders, not critics. With those who water your spirit, not drain it. And Rule 50 Stop trying to be everything to everyone. I wore too many masks. Played too many roles. But Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, do not be ashamed of help. You are not here to be all things to all people. You are here to be something real to a few. Protect your identity by being whole, not accessible. If these rules remind you of something you have quietly known but never voiced, trust that. Truth does not shout. It whispers until you are finally still enough to hear it. After 40, that stillness becomes sacred. By the time you reach this season of life, you begin to see the difference between what is urgent and what is important. You start protecting the parts of yourself that no one else sees but that carry all the weight: your thoughts, your discipline, your emotional bandwidth. These next 10 rules are not about being better. They are about being clear. Because clarity at this stage is power. Rule 50-1 Protect your future from your impulses. I used to make decisions based on feelings, quick-heated, reactive. But Marcus Aurelius warned, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Impulse is temporary. Regret is not. Wait. Breathe. Then act from alignment, not emotion. Rule 50- to stop waiting for the right time, start honoring the present one. I told myself I would do it later. When things calmed down. When I was ready. But Epictetus said, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best of yourself? There is no perfect time. There is only now. Do not let later become never. Rule 50-3 Protect your conversations. Not every ear deserves your truth. I used to overshare hoping for connection. But Seneca taught that trust should be earned. Share your soul selectively. Let your words land where they are met with presence, not just noise. Rule 50- for do not confuse comfort with compatibility. I stayed in dynamics that felt familiar, even when they were unfulfilling. But Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to live in alignment with nature, his own nature. Just because something feels easy does not mean it is right. Growth rarely feels comfortable at first. Rule 50-5 Protect your ambition from distraction disguised as opportunity. I said yes to too many things that looked good but pulled me away from what was essential. Epictetus said, do not try to seem wise to others. You do not need to impress, only to stay focused. Every yes must serve a greater why. Rule 50-6 Protect your nervous system. I ignored how my body responded to people, places, environments until it screamed loud enough for me to finally listen. Seneca knew the body and the mind are not separate. If it makes your chest tighten, your sleep shallow, your energy collapse, it is not for you. Rule 50-7 Stop trying to fix what is not broken, just unfamiliar. I used to self-sabotage when things felt too calm, too easy, too good. But Marcus Aurelius wrote, accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together. Sometimes, peace feels foreign because you were rained in chaos. Let yourself receive it. Rule 50-8 Protect your standards even when you are lonely. I compromised too often, thinking a little connection was better than none. But Epictetus taught that freedom begins where need ends. Do not let loneliness lower your guard. The right people will meet you at the level of your self-respect. Rule 50-9 Stop giving people multiple versions of you. I adapted too often. Shifted to fit the room, the tone, the mood. But Seneca warned against the scattering of the soul. Wholeness begins when you stop editing yourself for the sake of approval. Be one version, the honest one. And Rule 60 Protect your momentum from perfectionism. I waited until I felt ready, until it felt flawless. But Marcus Aurelius led in the midst of chaos, uncertainty, and fatigue. Start messy. Start small. Just start. Perfection is the enemy of progress, and progress protects your future. If you feel a pull reading these rules, it is not coincidence. It is the sound of alignment. This is what happens when you stop being reactive and start being intentional. After 40, that is not optional, it is survival. By now, you understand life is no longer about accumulation, it is about elimination. Not adding more, but protecting what you have built. Your peace. Your wisdom. Your pace. These next 10 rules are not just reminders. They are thresholds. Cross them, and you will not live the same again, not because life changed, but because you did. Rule 60-1 Protect your attention from other people's chaos. I used to absorb the anxiety of everyone around me, family, co-workers, strangers online. But Marcus Aurelius knew that peace is an inside job. You can discard most of the junk that clutters your mind. Your inner world is not a sponge. It is a sanctuary. Guard it. Rule 60- to stop negotiating with red flags. I used to call them quirks, exceptions. No one is perfect. But patterns are loud, and your gut rarely lies. Epictetus warned that we suffer more from lies we tell ourselves than from the truth we avoid. Trust what you see. And walk early, not after damage is done. Rule 60-3 Protect your recovery time. I push through everything: grief, sickness, heartbreak, as if rest were laziness. But Seneca wrote, we must give ourselves time to heal. Not every moment needs to be productive. Recovery is part of your strategy, not a pause from it. Rule 60- where you do not owe unlimited access to anyone. I used to feel guilty for not replying quickly, not being available, not attending every event. But Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to live in accordance with nature, not obligation. You are not a resource for other people's convenience. Protect your access like a gift, not a given. Rule 60-5 Protect your joy from guilt. I used to feel selfish when things were finally going well, like I needed to downplay it. But Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life, and part of freedom is being allowed to feel good without apology. Do not shrink your joy to match someone else's discomfort. Rule 60-6 Stop letting temporary people leave permanent damage. I carried wounds from those who were never meant to stay. But Seneca reminded us what need is there to weep over parts of life. The whole of it calls for tears. Let it go. Do not let a moment of hurt define decades of healing. Rule 60-7 Protect your habits more than your goals. I used to dream big, but live small because my habits did not match my vision. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Who you become daily is who you will be permanently. Build habits that protect that identity." Rule 60-8. Stop confusing numbness with strength. I used to think not feeling was resilience. But ignoring pain is not power, it is delay. Epictetus taught that awareness is the start of freedom. Let yourself feel, but do not become what you feel. Acknowledge the storm and keep walking. Rule 60-9. Protect your boundaries even when they inconvenience others. I used to fold when someone got upset. But Seneca believed true peace requires conflict sometimes. Let them be uncomfortable. Your future deserves the version of you that does not collapse under guilt. And Rule 70. Stop waiting for permission to live differently. I waited for signs, support, understanding. But Marcus Aurelius never sought applause, he sought alignment. You already know what needs to shift. Do not ask the world to co-sign your freedom. Choose it. If these truths feel less like advice and more like confirmation, it means you are ready. Not for a new chapter, but for a new standard. The one where protecting your life becomes your default, not your last resort. At this point in your life, you begin to realize the greatest threat to your future is not failure. It is fatigue from the wrong fight. It is giving your best energy to what does not return it. These rules are not glamorous. They are grounded. And grounding after 40 is what keeps you from crumbling when life tests your foundation. Rule 70-1. Protect your presence from multitasking. I used to juggle everything: conversations, meals, even rest. But Marcus Aurelius said, concentrate every minute like a Roman. When you divide your attention, you divide your life. Give yourself back to the moment. One thing at a time. Done well, done fully, done consciously. Rule 70- to stop chasing peace in places that caused your pain. I returned to the same cycles, hoping for different outcomes. But Epictetus taught that liberation comes when we stop hoping the external will fix the internal. What hurt you once will likely hurt you again. Do not confuse history with hope. Rule 70-3. Protect your inner voice from outside volume. I used to second-guess myself because someone else sounded more certain. But certainty is not wisdom. Seneca warned that a loud opinion is often a distraction from inner emptiness. Learn to pause, to check in. If your soul whispers no, listen even when everyone else says yes. Rule 70- for you are allowed to change your mind without explanation. I held on to old commitments, identities, even beliefs, just to appear consistent. But Marcus Aurelius never clung to yesterday's version of himself. Growth requires flexibility, and flexibility requires freedom from your past persona. Rule 70-5. Protect your legacy more than your lifestyle. I once prioritized what looked good over what lasted. But Epictetus asked, what is the fruit of these teachings? A tranquil mind. Lifestyle fades. Legacy is what echoes. Live in a way your future self will not have to apologize for. Rule 70-6. Stop mistaking busy for important. I used to wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. But Seneca knew that business is often avoidance dressed as achievement. Protect your time not with tasks, but with intention. You are not what you produce. You are what you protect. Rule 70-7. Protect your curiosity from certainty. I used to think I had to have it all figured out by now. But Marcus Aurelius journaled more questions than answers. Stay open. Stay learning. The moment you believe you have arrived is the moment you stop evolving. Rule 70-8, your silence is more powerful than their noise. I once believed I had to match the energy, defend, correct, retaliate. But Epictetus reminded that no response is often the highest response. Let them speak. Let them spin. You stay grounded. You stay free. Rule 70-9, protect your time from urgency that is not yours. I jumped at every ping, every request, every quick favor. But Seneca wrote, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Their emergency is not your responsibility. Learn to say, not now. And Rule 80, stop trying to keep people who do not want to stay. I begged over minus explained, held doors open too long. But Marcus Aurelius accepted impermanence as part of nature. Let them go. Do not cling to what was already drifting. Sometimes peace begins with goodbye. If these rules feel more like armor than advice, it is because they are. After 40, survival is not just about staying alive. It is about staying aligned. You are not here to be everything. You are here to be something true. By now, you have learned protection is not paranoia, it is preservation. You are no longer trying to prove your worth to the world. You are simply trying to live in a way that does not betray it. These next 10 rules are about tending to what matters quietly, consistently, without apology. Rule 80-1, protect yourself minus respect before your reputation. I used to worry about what people thought. But Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, it never ceases to amaze me we all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Choose the harder right over the easier approval. Rule 80-, to stop letting your emotions make long-term agreements. I said yes in moments of guilt, made promises in moments of pressure. But Epictetus taught that emotional maturity means feeling everything while obeying only what aligns with reason. Pause before you commit. Protect your future from your impulses. Rule 80-3, protect your future from nostalgia. I used to romanticize the past, replayed it like a highlight reel. But Seneca warned that memory can distort, beautify, lie. What was behind you ended for a reason. Visit it, learn from it, but do not live there. Rule 80-, for you are not obligated to fix what you did not break. I tried to make peace for others, carry guilt that was never mine. But Marcus Aurelius taught the work of being a good person is enough. You are responsible for your part, not for their chaos. Rule 80-5, protect your decisions from people who have to live with none of the consequences. I used to ask for advice from everyone, forgetting that they would not live with the outcome. Epictetus said, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. Your life you await. Carry it wisely. Rule 80-6, stop making space for people who never ask how you are doing. I used to chase connection. But Seneca believed energy must be mutual, or it becomes erosion. Protect your time from one-sided bonds. If they do not check on you, you are not in their heart, only their habit. Rule 80-7, protect your dignity in conversations that tempt your old self. I used to match tone, lower myself to be heard. But Marcus Aurelius reminded himself the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Do not explain. Elevate. Let your maturity be the message. Rule 80-8, stop mistaking guilt for growth. I believed that feeling bad meant I was becoming better. But Epictetus knew growth is in correction, not self-punishment. Guilt is a signal, not a sentence. Feel it, learn from it, release it. Rule 80-9, protect your sense of wonder. I used to believe that adulthood meant knowing everything. But Seneca said, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. Stay curious. Ask better questions. Be willing to be surprised by joy, by people, by possibility. And Rule 90, stop over-explaining to those who are committed to not hearing you. I twisted my truth into softer shapes, hoping they would understand. But Marcus Aurelius would write, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Your truth does not need a sales pitch. Let your peace speak louder than your paragraphs. If these rules feel like coming home to yourself, that is because you are. Protection, at this stage, is no longer defense, it is design. You are building a life that honors the cost it took to become who you are. At this point, the question is no longer what do I want? It becomes what am I no longer willing to lose? Time, energy, dignity, clarity, these are not just precious. They are irreplaceable. These rules are reminders. Not of who you were, but of who you must now protect. Rule 90-1, protect your boundaries without guilt. I used to second-guess myself every time someone was disappointed. But Marcus Aurelius said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. A boundary is not a rejection of others, it is a declaration of self-respect. Rule 90- to stop trying to make the temporary permanent. I clung to moments, to feelings, to people who were only meant to pass through. But Epictetus taught that attachment to impermanence is the root of suffering. Love it, let it go. Do not force what is fading. Rule 90-3, protect your calendar from your past self's habits. I used to fill my time based on who I used to be, overcommitted, overstrutted, over-available. But Seneca wrote, only time cannot be regained. Audit your days. Align your commitments with who you are now, not who you were when you still feared saying no. Rule 90- for you are not required to respond to everything. I answered every message, every demand, every opinion. Until I learned that silence is not absence, it is assertion. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that time is a river of passing events. Not every ripple needs your attention. Rule 90-5, protect your progress from the pull of old patterns. I used to revisit people and habits that had no place in my future. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. If you want to live differently, you have to choose differently, even when it is lonely. Rule 90-6, stop ignoring how things make you feel. I rationalized away discomfort, tolerated subtle disrespect. But Seneca taught that reason and emotion must walk together. Your body speaks what your mind avoids. Pay attention. What trains you is trying to teach you something. Rule 90-7, protect your joy from your own skepticism. I used to question every moment of peace. Waited for the crash. But Marcus Aurelius said, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself. Stop interrogating the good. Let joy align fully. Rule 90-8, not everyone deserves access to the softest parts of you. I gave too much, too quickly, mistaking openness for strength. But Epictetus reminded us that virtue includes discernment. Share your soul slowly. Not because you are guarded, but because you are sacred. Rule 90-9, protect your endings from becoming entanglements. I tried to keep the door half-minus open just in case. But Seneca knew that indecision is its own form of suffering. End it well. End it clean. Let the space stay empty so something truer can fill it. And Rule 100, stop living like your life has no boundaries. I gave my energy like I was infinite. Poured myself into everyone and everything. But Marcus Aurelius said you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Life is not a rehearsal. Protect it accordingly. If you feel lighter reading this, it is because you are shedding more than habits. You are shedding identities that no longer protect your peace. What remains is not just you, It is the version of you that will carry the next 40 years with grace. So here we are. 90 minus 9 rules behind you. One left to name. But maybe you have already felt it. This was never about the rules. It was about remembering what you forgot while trying to survive. Trying to please. Trying to prove. These rules were not new, they were reminders. Of boundaries you betrayed. Of clarity you buried. Of strength you had all along. After 40, protection is no longer about armor. It is about alignment. You are not building walls to keep people out. You are building structure to keep yourself upright. You are not shutting out the world. You are choosing what part of the world still deserves access to the most sacred parts of you, your time, your energy, your story, your joy. You see, this phase of life is not about becoming someone new. It is about finally being allowed to be who you were before the noise began. Before the world handed you its checklist. Before shame dressed up as discipline. Before exhaustion became your baseline. You are not starting over. You are returning with wisdom. And what did these 100 rules really teach you? That peace is not passive. It must be protected. That growth is not loud. It is often lonely. That truth is not always welcomed. But it is always worth it. You have learned that your silence is strength, your no is sacred, and your time is no longer negotiable. You have learned that boundaries are not selfish, they are soul care. That softness without limits becomes self-minus destruction. That showing up for yourself is not a phase, it is a vow. And most of all, you have learned this. You do not need to be saved. You need to stop abandoning yourself. That is the 100th rule. The one that holds all the others. Stop abandoning yourself. Not when they need something. Not when guilt whispers. Not when love asks for too much. Not when fear tells you to shrink. After 40, protection is not resistance, it is responsibility. And the one life you are responsible for entirely is yours. Let that sink in. This is where we land, not with a grand finale, but with a quiet knowing. I return. After 100 rules, the most powerful truth is this: you already knew them. You just forgot how much your soul depended on remembering. This was never about becoming untouchable. It was about becoming unshakable. Rooted. Intentional. Selective with your presence. Generous with your wisdom. Relentless about your peace. Because after 40, you do not just want to live well, you want to live honestly. Without pretense. Without apology. If these words stirred something in you, it was not motivation. It was recognition. The part of you that is tired of surviving on autopilot. The part of you ready to lead yourself softly, fiercely, without delay. Because no one else is coming. And maybe no one else ever was. So, this is not just a list. It is a mirror. A map. A moment where you pause long enough to ask, what part of me have I been protecting least? Let that answer guide you. Protect what matters. Forgive what is done. Speak what is true. Rest when it is time. Walk away when it costs your peace. Choose people who honor your presence. And most of all, live like the most sacred contract you have is with yourself. Not to be perfect. Not to be liked. But to be real. Because in the end, what protects your future is not a rule book. It is a return to the deepest part of you that always knew what to keep, what to release, and when to begin again. Let this be that beginning. You are not late. You are right on time.